Right, today we are talking sheep again, and as ever, we are going very glamorous. If you're in the UK, you'll be aware that we are in the middle of fly strike season, and if you farm sheep, likewise you'll be aware that one of the major risk factors for a sheep getting fly strike is how dirty or soiled its back end is. So today we're talking about just that. Dags are, and there's no dancing around this I'm afraid, the fecal accumulations around a sheep's tail and perineum. That area is also known as the breech, hence a breech calving or a breech lambing, because that's the bit that's coming out first. If you already farm sheep, you'll be well aware of how troublesome and tiresome these dags are. They require you to crutch sheep, that is clip out that breech area, and then you have the chemical cost of control, trying to reduce the factors that make sheep daggy, plus the potential stress for any farmer who has one or two dirty lambs, and because farmers are always busy, worrying about getting around to them in time before the flies do. So what can we do about it to both improve sheep welfare and the time that farmers spend dealing with and worrying about these dags? Again, I've yet to meet anyone who enjoys crutching sheep, but if you do, more power to you. I think you're in the minority. So the first step is understanding what causes these dags. What causes one sheep to be more daggy than another? Actually, when you drill down into it, this is pretty complex because there are a number of different steps in dag formation. Some factors are related to the environment, so that's the ration available to the sheep, the larval worm challenge on a given pasture, the species of those worms, and in some countries, fungal endophytes on grass can cause lambs to scour and make dags. Other factors are more specific to the individual sheep, so things like the length of the tail, length of the wool around the tail, its own resistance or resilience to worms, and so on. All of these factors can affect whether this semi-fluid dung is being produced, and crucially, also affect how likely that semi-fluid dung is then to adhere to the wool and the skin around the tail. Both steps are crucial in dag formation. Given the wide range of factors that influence dagginess and the fact that some of these factors are specific to individual sheep, some farmers have simply opted to select against dags. That is, sheep that are dirty are not retained, or at the very least, those dirty sheep have a mark against their name when it comes to selecting potential replacements. This isn't particularly common in the UK, it's more common in places like Australia or New Zealand. Beef and Lamb New Zealand, that's the levy board for that country, quotes the heritability of dags at about 30%. So in plain English, that means the variation you see on the ground, 30% of that is to do with the animal's genetics. The remaining 70% are due to those environmental factors we mentioned earlier. Now, that might not sound like a huge amount, but actually, compared to some other traits, that is relatively heritable. So there's good potential to select against dagginess and make some progress. Rather than look for specific genes related to this issue, we use the Daggy Score as a proxy. So the Daggy Score, at least the one that I've seen used, is a 6-point scale from 0 to 5. I'll put that up now so you can see what that looks like. This is the scale used by Sheep Improvement Limited. That's a subsidiary of Beef and Lamb New Zealand we mentioned earlier. It's also the same scale used by Signet, who do a lot of sheep and cattle recording in the UK. As to when these sheep are recorded, adults can be recorded at any time so long as there is variation present. Lambs are typically scored at 2 points. So one is post-weaning at about 3 to 4 months, and the second point is at about 8 months of age. As with any trait you're trying to select for, the presence of variability is key. If all the lambs are scoring 0, clearly we're not going to make any progress. That might be because the environment isn't sufficiently challenging, and so any genetic differences, that 30% we said was heritable, isn't being given a chance to manifest itself. So only in a higher pressure environment are those genetic differences manifested. To put a figure on that, Signet recommend that at least 30% of lambs score above a 0. If they're all very clean, the chances are either your flock is very resistant to dags already. What's probably more likely is that the environmental pressure simply isn't there, and those genetic differences aren't being given a chance to manifest themselves. And there's a few key recommendations about keeping things consistent. Lambs should be scored in contemporary groups. They should be scored by the same person that year and in that flock. And I should point out that it's fine for lambs to be crutched in between those scoring events, so long as all of the lambs are treated the same. This isn't about leaving lambs unprotected against fly strike. Of course, this is probably most important for anyone breeding their own replacements or producing breeding stock for sale, whether that's females or males. If you're buying tups or ewes, consider the sources of those stock. Are they applying some sort of pressure against dags or the issues that cause them? So are they selecting for resistance to worms? This is one way any sheep breeder of any breed could add value to their sheep. And I think the honest truth is, apart from some early adopters, they aren't going to do it if they don't perceive that it adds value. And how can we get them to perceive it adds value? People who are buying these sheep have got to ask for it and offer to pay even a modest premium for those who are doing it. And of course, those buyers should see a return on that because it means healthier sheep and less work for them to do. For those of you who want to do a dag deep dive, I have attached plenty of resources in the video description. By all means, peruse those at your leisure, or of course, go and ask your vet all about dags. That's the end of this one. With any luck, the next one will be even more glamorous. If you haven't already, go ahead, click subscribe, ring the little bell next to it, and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you for the next video.